broadband bills introduced this year in legislatures across the country. I think you said 20 or so?
18. 18 were introduced. 18 kind of significant bills. That is a bill that said we're going to provide grants.
Okay, and 5 passed.
You have one in Minnesota.
Yeah, and 5 passed.
5 passed.
Who are the others that passed other than us?
California passed a bill. They already had a broadband fund, and there was discussion about whether that fund should pay into a complex that was underserved, or whether it needed to be a complex that was unserved. And so this bill says we're going to provide funding from our broadband fund only to unserved areas. The second, a bill passed in Idaho to create a broadband infrastructure grant program that's really similar to what you all are doing in Minnesota. So let us put together a program that will help us to have broadband. In Utah, the bill that passed allows municipalities across the state to take a vote about whether they want to have municipal broadband. There will probably be some additional hoops to jump through, but this begins to look at how do I decide what sort of what will help me to bring broadband across the country. Virginia passed a bill that allows companies to install fiber for broadband in conduit on state highways. So while it's not a pure let me have broadband bill, it's a bill that helps to extend where broadband is. And Wisconsin passed a very interesting bill. The Wisconsin bill says that grants to broadband providers may not subsidize telecom providers. And that's an interesting question. One bill is still pending in Massachusetts, and that is to create a committee to study broadband, something very similar to your task force, I think, to determine and report to the legislature on what needs to be done to increase broadband penetration and broadband speeds in the state. The other bills in Missouri, they would have created a fund for broadband. In Missouri, a bill that failed was another muni-backed broadband bill. If you remember, it is Missouri that kind of started the no muni broadband practice. In New Mexico, a bill failed to offer a tax credit to broadband providers to try to increase penetration. So they're all over the board, but the idea is let's test the different ways that we can increase broadband.
So I want to ask 2 questions. We have a few more minutes with you. One question is, if you were scanning the horizon for really intriguing ideas about what policymakers are doing at all levels to increase broadband, is there something that we should at least study or look at that's out there?
You know, that is a really good question. One of the things that we don't generally think about as a broadband provider or a way to increase broadband is the question of pole attachments. but there's been a lot of discussion about who can attach to poles. There in Tennessee, there's a fight going on between AT&T and Google. If I can't attach to the pole, I can't provide more broadband. So it might be very interesting to look at that.
Okay.
Google has said that they're now looking at some new method of using wireless to provide broadband. That should also be something interesting to think about. I mean, it looks like Google has decided that maybe it's too much money to actually trench and provide fiber. I think that's something that I would want to understand. And I think the question of partnerships between industry and providers, maybe the non-traditional providers, the satellite providers, the other providers, that I think we're going to see more of those. And finally, the new Broadband Lifeline program, it's going to be interesting to watch that program and to see if it really does increase broadband usage, adoption. Yeah. And I know that you all are looking at that in Minnesota. It's going to be a very interesting program.
So thank you for those ideas. If you were to grade us as a state on how we're doing on this issue, what grade would we get right now?
Oh, I never grade anyone. I gave that up when I stopped being a professor.
Oh, come on. Come on. It's a start of
I think the fact that you have a task force is really important. The more of us that work together, both industry and legislators and regulators, the better solutions we're going to craft. So I think you guys are doing really good. In my world, you get like a high pass.
Okay, good. Like a check plus. I use check minus check plus in my class.
Oh, I like that. I'll put that on my list.
Yeah.
You know, when I was a professor, I used to give like real letter grades, but I don't think
I only do that for the final ones, right, Laura? That's right. I have a former student in the room. All right.
Okay, let's see.
Okay. Any other questions from the members of this task force or anyone else? Sherry, this has been very helpful today. Super helpful. Really nice work. Thank you.
Well, thank you all, and please feel free to email me. I'll be happy to come back and talk to you again. If you ask before winter, I would love to actually come to Minnesota. I've never been there.
Well, we're a little more like Seattle today. It's been a little wet